On a crisp autumn evening, Sarah stood in the driveway of her suburban Boston home, watching flames consume every piece of clothing she owned. The acrid smell of burning fabric filled the air, thick with smoke. Her husband, Tom, stood beside the fire, his face twisted with rage. His usual calm demeanor had shattered, and next to him stood his mother, Evelyn, with a triumphant smirk. Sarah felt her stomach churn. It hadn't always been like this. 5 years ago, when she met Tom in a cozy coffee shop, she believed she had found her soulmate. Back then, Tom had been charming and attentive. He made her feel heard, cherished even. They spent hours laughing over steaming lattes, sharing dreams of the future. Just 18 months later, they were married, full of hope for a bright life together. But slowly, the man she loved began to fade away. At first, it was small things, a dismissive comment here, an ignored concern there. Then, it became constant criticism, always accompanied by a patronizing smile. "Sarah, darling," he would say, "don't you think you should try harder with dinner? My mother's pot roast is to die for." Evelyn had moved in with them shortly after the wedding, claiming she was lonely. Sarah tried to welcome her, to build a relationship with the woman who had raised her husband. But it quickly became clear that Evelyn saw her as an outsider, never good enough for her precious son. She nitpicked everything, how Sarah folded laundry, arranged flowers, even the way she spoke. "Oh, Sarah," she would sigh dramatically, "I suppose you just weren't raised to understand these things." Tom stood by, watching silently, never defending his wife. Whenever Sarah tried to talk to him, he dismissed her concerns. "Mom's just set in her ways," he would say. "She means well. You need to learn to get along with her." And so, Sarah swallowed her pride and bit her tongue, trying desperately to be the perfect wife and daughter-in-law. But no matter how much she tried, nothing was ever good enough. That night, something inside her snapped. Evelyn had asked her to prepare her favorite meal, a complicated French dish. Sarah spent hours in the kitchen, determined to prove herself. When she finally served dinner, her hands trembled slightly. Evelyn took one bite and spat it out. "This is inedible," she declared. "Thomas, darling, I think it's time we discussed finding someone more capable to take care of the household duties." Years of frustration boiled over inside Sarah. "I've had enough," she said, her voice steady. "I have spent years trying to please both of you, but I am done." Silence followed. Tom's face darkened with anger. He stormed upstairs, and moments later, Sarah heard drawers yanked open and closet doors slamming. When he returned, his arms were full of her clothes. Without a word, he marched outside. Confused, Sarah followed. In the driveway, he dumped everything into a pile. Then, from his pocket, he pulled out a lighter. "Tom," Sarah gasped, realization dawning. "What are you doing?" He didn't answer. With a flick, a small flame caught the edge of her favorite sweater, spreading quickly. She watched in horror as years of memories, her college graduation dress, the scarf her grandmother knitted, turned to ash. Evelyn stood in the doorway, satisfaction written all over her face. "If you don't like it," Tom spat, "sign the divorce papers and leave. You're as good as worthless to me." Sarah looked at him, really looked at him. The man she had loved no longer existed. She turned her gaze to Evelyn, her smug expression illuminated by the dying embers. And suddenly, Sarah felt nothing but pity. Without a word, she walked back into the house. On the kitchen table, a stack of divorce papers waited. Tom must have had them prepared for this moment. Her hand was steady as she signed her name. She set the pen down and looked up. Tom stood in the doorway, his expression a mix of surprise and something else, regret, perhaps. But it was too late. "Okay," she said simply. She grabbed her purse, checked for her wallet and phone, the only possessions she had left, and walked out of the house for the last time. Behind her, Evelyn's voice rang out, "Good riddance. You were never good enough for my Thomas." Sarah didn't look back. She walked down the street, past familiar places filled with memories, toward an uncertain but hopeful future. She had no clothes, no home, barely any money, but she felt freer than she had in years. As she scrolled through her phone, she saw a name that made her heart lift: Sophia. Her best friend from college, the one she had pushed away during her marriage. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the call button. "Sarah," came a familiar, concerned voice. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. "Sophia, I need help." There was a pause, then Sophia's voice came through, strong and sure. "Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you." Sophia arrived half an hour later. The moment Sarah saw her, she nearly collapsed in relief. Without a word, Sophia pulled her into a tight hug. "Let's get you out of here," she murmured. The drive to Sophia's apartment was quiet, filled only with gentle reassurances. Later that night, Sarah curled up in bed, crying herself to sleep. But for the first time in years, they weren't tears of despair, they were tears of release. Over the next few days, Sophia helped Sarah piece together a new life. First, they went shopping for clothes, second-hand but hers. Then, they updated her resume. Sarah had a degree in marketing, a skill set she had let fade in her marriage. With Sophia's encouragement, she applied for jobs. A week later, she met Rachel, a lawyer who specialized in divorce cases. As Sarah recounted her story, Rachel's expression grew serious. "What Tom did was not just cruel, Sarah," she said. "It was abusive. You might be entitled to more than you realize." Sarah blinked. She had never thought of herself as a victim before. The court hearing was set for a few weeks later. During that time, Sarah found a job at a small marketing firm. The owner, Diane, took a chance on her. "We all have chapters we'd rather forget," she said kindly. "What matters is where you go from here." Slowly, Sarah started rediscovering herself. The night before the hearing, she looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her hair was shorter, her posture straighter. "You've got this," she whispered to herself. And for the first time, she believed it. In court, Rachel presented Sarah's case with confidence. The judge listened intently. Tom's lawyer tried to paint Sarah as unstable and ungrateful, but when she took the stand and told her story, Tom's expression shifted. Regret flickered in his eyes, but it was too late. The judge ruled in Sarah's favor, granting her compensation for her destroyed belongings and a larger share of the marital assets. Outside the courthouse, Sophia hugged her. "You did it," she said. And for the first time, Sarah felt like she had truly won. Months passed. Sarah moved into her own apartment and started a blog, Rising from the Ashes, sharing her journey. The response was overwhelming. Women from all over reached out with their own stories of survival. One day, she had an idea: what if she could do more? Over coffee, she told Sophia her plan, a nonprofit to help women rebuild their lives. Sophia's eyes lit up. "Sarah, this is amazing. You're going to change lives." With Rachel's help, Sarah started Phoenix Rising, offering legal aid, career counseling, and support for survivors. The organization grew faster than she imagined. Former colleagues volunteered. Donations poured in. Even her old neighbor, Linda, reached out, offering to help. "I wish something like this had existed years ago," Linda admitted. And with that, Sarah knew she was on the right path. A year after her divorce, she sat in her favorite coffee shop, reflecting on her journey. The girl who had stood in that burning driveway was gone. In her place was a woman who had rebuilt her life from the ashes, and was now helping others do the same. As she sipped her coffee, her phone buzzed. A message from Sophia. "Turn on the news." Curious, she clicked the link. A headline flashed across the screen: "Phoenix Rising, one woman's journey from survivor to advocate." Sarah smiled as she read the article. The life she had once lost was gone, but she had built something even better, something stronger. she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. And for the first time in years, she was truly, completely free.